Hello, everyone. Come on into the Zoom room. We're so excited to help be with you all tonight, share some scholarship tips and tricks. Come on into the room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar tonight. Hi, everyone. Come on in. Come on in. We're excited to welcome you all tonight. We're going to get started in just a few minutes as soon as I stop seeing people come in. Hello, everyone. I see we're still letting a few people into the room, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's webinar. My name is Joya Moore, and I am the Scholarships Manager here at the National Society of High School Scholars. And I'm so excited to share this information with you all tonight. Tonight's webinar is going to focus on showing you all how to apply for a scholarship with NSHSS. So we're super excited. We're gonna have a live viewing of the walkthrough, and then after we will take some questions, but feel free to actually enter your questions into the chat real time. We have an awesome staff here who we're all prepared to answer your questions in the chat, and then I'll actually come back on and I'll answer some questions live. So go ahead and grab your pen and paper or your iPads or whatever you use to take notes so that you can take some notes and get some great tips tonight. And we're gonna get started. Alrighty, my friends, so let's walk through a scholarship application. Tonight, we are going to submit for your first scholarship. So the very first thing you would want to do is to visit www.nshss.org/scholarships, and it will land you here on this page. So you're going to scroll down, and you will see all the different scholarships that we have open. It'll show you the close dates, the open dates, and the type of awards. This particular scholarship is the Your First Scholarship. So you would select your first scholarship link here. As you can see, it closes October 1st, so you have time to apply. We're going to award 20 folks $500 scholarships. It's always a good idea to scroll down and just check the eligibility for all the scholarships that you're interested in. This one in particular is for NSHSS members who have not won a scholarship before. The point of this particular scholarship is to guide you through the scholarship process. So as we work through the application tonight, you will see how we've set it up in a way where we're actually teaching you how to create some of the pieces that you will then submit for your actual application. So once again, it's always good to scroll down and to read everything about the scholarship so that you know how many awards are being given. That just gives you an idea about your chances in terms of actually winning. But if you scroll down, you see here the eligibility requirements. We have a personal statement. You see pictures and videos that are optional, a headshot, your academic resume, transcript, and an educator recommendation. So what you would do is apply, select apply. And for me, I've already logged in, but in that screen, you would actually enter your email address and your password. You've already created an account with us. If not, you'll enter your information and then it will bring you to this screen. So once again, you'll see here the eligibility, the number of awards that we're going to award, and it'll also have the same information in terms of what you need to submit. So you'll select see my application, and it's going to open the application for you. As you can see, I have not submitted any of the pieces of my application just yet. So once again, eligibility. So at this point, you should definitely know if you're eligible for a particular scholarship. With this one, we actually do ask that you verify that you have not won a scholarship before. So that is the very first step of this application. You're going to scroll down here, make sure you always read what you're agreeing to, and then you're going to select this box to verify, mark as complete. And now you've actually completed that step. The next step is writing your personal statement. So you'll select this tab, and now it tells you how to engage in writing your personal statement. This is a really helpful tip or set of tips because for most scholarship applications, you're going to have to write some type of personal statement and answer a prompt for that particular scholarship. So you'll just read through the different tips that we offer here. So here at the top, it just tells you to read the questions carefully and don't just list the things you've done on your resume. That's really, really important because you want to show that you can answer questions. This is also really important when you're applying for entry into colleges because those prompts, the way you answer those prompts are really helpful with the admissions team, knowing if you will have the ability to read an essay question and be able to respond appropriately. The second thing is just to be creative. As I read scholarships, is always fun for me to, see things that are not typical. And you can do that in certain ways. Of course, you don't want to make things up, but the better you are at telling your story and the things you've achieved and just kind of showing us who you are, the better it is in terms of your chances of winning. Like I just mentioned, you don't want to make things up. So you want to be sincere, you want to be authentic, and just trust that as you're writing your prompt or answering the question that you're showing who you are. You don't have to be anything more than who you are. Just show us who you are in the way that you write your story. It's very, very important to proofread, edit, proofread. Oftentimes, we think we've written something, and so our brain will tell us that we wrote something that we didn't write. So it's always important to proofread your work. It's also really important to have someone else take a look at it for you. They're a fresh pair of eyes, so they can spot things a lot faster than you would be able to, because you oftentimes will read what you thought you wrote and not what you actually wrote. So proofreading is really, really an important habit to take with you now and also throughout the rest of your life. So once you go through there, you're just reading this part. You're going to mark as complete because you've read it, and you're going to move on. So to apply for your scholarship. So here, once again, it's walking you through how to start your personal statement. I really love these tips because it is such a great set of tips in terms of writing in general. If you apply these tips to your writing now and your writing going forward, it would be very, very helpful in terms of you being able to tell a clear story. So once again, some of these is already mentioned here, kind of brainstorm. And that's a really important aspect of the process, really just thinking through how you want to answer the question. Write down all the thoughts that you have and just put it on a piece of paper so that you just get your thoughts out. It's something I do every time I write. I always just kind of write down, what comes to mind initially. That's very helpful because it helps you to be authentic with your writing and telling stories. Knowing exactly what comes to you at first usually is where you will go in terms of writing a story or writing a paper. An outline is so important when you're telling a story. So make sure that you organize your thoughts. Of course, many of you are learning these skills in school. You have, your professors who are teaching grammar and literature. And so if you have not had this part of your education just yet, it's always cool to go to your English teacher and get with them and ask them how you can actually outline your paper so that you're telling a clear story. Be creative in your writing, and then just actually start writing. Don't be afraid to just write what you're thinking, what's on your mind, how you would see the paper coming together. You can always edit and change things if it's not flowing for you, but just be bold enough to actually just start to write. Once again, proofreading is really important. Editing is very important. Like we mentioned before, you want to make sure that you have someone who is going to read your essay and give you good feedback. We advise that you do this 5 to 7 times, or repeat the steps until you're very confident about your personal statement and the way that it tells your story. So here, I'm not going to write 500 words, but I am going to just write the gist of my paper is going to be that I'm awesome. And then I'm going to just list out all the ways that I'm awesome. And then I will, close my paper by wrapping up, my intro. I'll write an intro just kind of summarize the different points that I've made in step 1 or paragraph 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll close it out. And it'd be a fantastic paper. And then you're done with that step. So the next step, like we explained earlier, it is optional if you want to upload any videos that you may have or any pictures that you may have that better tell your story. You absolutely can do that. For me, I'll just, attach maybe my headshot here, just so that you can see that process. So what you'll do here, I actually have my desktop here, and I have a folder that I've set aside for my scholarship application. So I would just select my headshot here, but of course you can have all types of pictures of you in action, whether you are in the community or doing things at school, whatever is appropriate for you to tell your story. And you're going to add it, attach it here. If you have a video, attach a video, and then you'll mark it as complete. So the next stage is actually requesting a recommendation. So we always like to kind of give you guys do's and don'ts when it comes to requesting a recommendation, because it requires you engaging with someone who may function as an educator, a counselor, or mentor. So you want to make sure that you have good engagement with those folks when you're asking them to do you a favor, like writing a letter of recommendation. So with us, before submitting, your recommendation, you want to just make sure you kind of have in mind the people who would write a good recommendation for you. And that's a really,
really important step to know who actually thinks well of you and would be willing and have the time to actually sit down and write an impactful recommendation for you. So here are our dues. Request letters of recommendation from an educator or a supervisor/manager. Before submitting their email in the application for the request, first contact and ask them directly. Recommenders are busy people. Requesting one without first contacting them may result in them missing the deadline because they were unable to complete it in time. We actually do have a blog post entitled Scholarship Tips from Scholarship Winners, from previous winners, and they suggest asking an educator in a specific area to write the letter of recommendation. For example, if you plan on applying for a STEM scholarship, ask an educator that is in that subject area. They will be able to speak on your STEM abilities better than others. That's a really important thing to keep in mind, my friends, as you are applying. Keep in mind when it's a specific application, you want to have someone who can speak to why you deserve that particular scholarship because you have been working in that area or you excel in that area. So the best thing to do, as you are going through different scholarship websites, including ours, and you decide the ones you think are suit you best, you want to then think about the people who could then help you tell your story, because that is all an application is just a way for you to tell your story. So be sure to ask your recommenders early. This is really, really important. I always say, if you can, the earlier, the better. So you want to give them at least 2 weeks to complete it. I would say if you, are doing your due diligence and you're applying early, ask for it back at least 2 weeks before your application is actually due. That way, if something goes wrong, you have time to resolve it, but you make sure that you have their pieces in place so that you can submit that application on time. So if you are going to give them 2 weeks and you want it 2 weeks ahead of time, you at least want to do it a month ahead of when it's due. Let's see here. As soon as you know you need a recommendation, like I was saying earlier, you just want to request it as soon as possible. You want to make sure that you follow up with your recommender to make sure that they receive the email request. Due to school restrictions on some emails, sometimes in our system, the recommendation request may go to their junk email and they won't see it. So you don't want to assume that they've received it. You want to make sure that you let them know that it's going to be in the mail or in their email and for them to check for it. So you want to follow up, make sure they have it. And if for some reason they're not getting it, then you'll have time to reach out to us and we can make sure we get that resolved for you. Once again, I mentioned it earlier, just want to make sure that you get them to submit those recommendations before the deadline. So if you can get it a couple weeks before you know that you're going to submit, that is, gives you some cushion there just in case something goes wrong, but it's just a good practice in terms of making sure you have things in on time. So once again, we are going to mark this stage as complete. And we're going to go to the next step. So here we will scroll down. And so you will, request a recommendation. You actually go through that process. Let's see, you're going to request a recommendation. So I'm going to request a recommendation from my boss. So her name is Karen, Karen Kane. And I know her email, so I'm going to type in, I've emailed her before, so it popped up here, and then I'm gonna send her a nice message and say, hi, Karen. Make sure that you type slowly enough to get it right. I'm applying for a scholarship and would be honored if you would write my letter of recommendation. Now, you've already actually had this conversation, so this is not surprising, my boss. And then you just want to say something nice and kind. Thank you. And I will send this request to her. And now you can see that I've requested the recommendation. And once it is done, it will, because you only need one, but you can have 2 people. Then you can mark the stage as complete once it's done and submit your application. So let's go to the next stage, my friends. Let's talk about a resume. So we have here, resume writing can be tricky, but it's something you will forever need for any endeavor from academics to your professional career. Creating one now will allow you to build on all your achievements, as well as remind you how hard you have worked and how far you have come. And I am someone who can attest to that. I've had several resumes over the course of my life, different stages, and it's always cool to be able to go back and just see some of the things I've done. As you continue to progress, some things will, you won't need them anymore. You've achieved even more things. So just kind of keep that in mind. The resume, should make you feel good, and it is another way for you to be able to tell your story in a very succinct way. So here's some of the things that you will include on a resume, particularly one that you'll submit to us for a scholarship. So your name, your best contact information, your objective or your resume profile, any academic information at the top with like your grad year or your expected grad year, or if you are enrolled in college as well as in high school. Academic information that makes you stand out. So if you have a high GPA, high SAT, ACT scores, and I can tell you as someone who sees resumes for scholarship applications, I automatically notice when someone highlights that they have a 4.1 GPA or a 3.6 GPA, it automatically just stands out to me and tells me the type of student they are right away without me having to see more. So relevant coursework to your academic goals. And so here you have a little bit more leeway there, to really just kind of tell us who you are, any extracurricular activities or clubs, volunteering, work activities outside of school, like if you've worked to assist your family's financial situation, be sure to include and note that some scholarships are based off of financial needs. So that goes back to the point that I was making initially about just reading the scholarship eligibility and the requirements, because knowing that as you are getting ready to submit your resume can help you in terms of formatting or reformatting depending on the scholarship application. So references are always good. I have a list of references from different walks in life. So I always know who I can call upon, who will speak well of me, depending on the endeavor. So it's important for you to start building, your references. And many of those folks will also be the people who, write those recommendations for you. So just kind of keep that in mind. Always know who's in your corner. It's always a good idea. So it says a note here, if you choose to write about a specific club or achievement in your personal essay, be sure it's also reflected in your resume. Just like with your personal statement, don't be afraid to be creative, just be mindful of colors, fonts, wording to ensure it continues to stay professional. So, I like this point here about your personal essay. Even when you think about things like LinkedIn and your professional resume, you want those things to line up and tell the same story. So this is a really good point to make here with you all. So here's a sample one that we have here. You read through it, you see the contact information, education, objectives, volunteer experience, awards, key skills, and it shows us where to go, and it tells us what we're looking at in the way that this resume is broken down. You don't necessarily have to follow this exact format, but it is good for you to kind of see those key areas and how you are, giving the person who's reading your resume a clear picture into the different areas of your life. So we're going to mark this as complete because we have read through this portion. And now we want to upload our resume. So once again, we're going to select attach a file here. And I have my resume here. I'm going to attach it. And then I'm going to mark this as complete. So we'll scroll down a bit more. So let's talk about headshots. So headshots are used to promote and celebrate your scholarship win on our website, social media accounts, and even in emails to other members and their families. Be sure to look your best. So I know we live in the world of selfies and there's so many great things we can do with our fancy phones, but we recommend that, that you don't take a selfie. You can put on your best outfit, but make sure you have a friend or a family member or someone take a picture of you so that it's not, where it's angled and we can tell that, you're holding the camera. Don't use a photo where you've cropped yourself out of a group. That's also really important, my friends. Don't wear inappropriate clothing. Of course, that is subjective, but you want to just consider the fact that, this is a professional, company and you are submitting, it's going to be on the website. Always keep in mind that there are people who will see, your headshots. These are people who could offer you other scholarship opportunities, internships, jobs in the future. And you want to make sure that you put your best foot forward, that your headshot actually tells a positive story about who you are. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be, very, very buttoned up. If you are someone who is creative and you like to have, color your hair, like to wear colorful clothes. We're just saying show your personality, but make sure that it is shown in a way where you are telling the story you want people to know about you. Make sure that you don't upload a photo where you can't see your face. I think that's a pretty obvious point here because it's a headshot, but you want to just be mindful when you are uploading your photos that we can actually see, your face and that it's done well. So this note here says your headshot doesn't have to be done by a professional. In fact, cell phones have great cameras, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, but you want to just make sure you're wearing the appropriate attire and that your background isn't distracting. This is really important point. So, if you are at the beach, or at the zoo or something, you want to just be mindful. Now, if you're telling the story that you love animals, maybe this is appropriate, but you want to just be mindful of the background of your photo. If at all possible, you want to have a solid background so that, there's nothing distracting and that we're focusing on you as we should be. Your photo should be clear and in focus. And your headshot typically doesn't show anything, below the shoulders, but your waist can be fine. So it just kind of depends on, the headshots that you've taken. So like we said here earlier, we use those to, promote you and celebrate you. So you want to just make sure it's appropriate. So we've reviewed the headshot don'ts. So we're going to mark this step as complete and move forward with uploading. So you guys have already seen my headshot. Here. And I'm going to upload it again. That's my headshot. And I actually have multiple versions of it. And I have the ability to crop it. So I have one that shows mostly my shoulders and above. And so it just depends on where I'm uploading this headshot. But this is my signature shot right now. So it's always cool to have one that, you just know it's your go-to until you get another one. So let's talk about your transcript. So to apply for an NSHSS scholarship, we do not require an official transcript. An unofficial transcript will do just fine. This is something you can upload yourself. Other organizations or university applications may require an official transcript, which means that it must be sent directly from your school's registrar or counselor. But we can see, your grades and get a picture of you, your academic career by receiving an unofficial transcript, my friends. So let's just kind of talk about this document. So here it says a transcript is a document that includes all of the classes that you've taken in each grade level. If you are a transfer student, all courses from your previous school will be included on your current school's transcript. So that's something important to know. If you are dual enrolled at a university, your high school transcript may or may not show the college credits you've earned or are earning. If they do not, you will need to submit a transcript from both high school and the university you are attending. This also includes, your transcript includes final grades from each course, your overall grade point average, and a class rank. Where do you get your transcript? So the transcript may be retrieved from your registrar's office or your school counselor. In some cases, the transcript may be unofficially retrieved from your own online portal. And I'm someone that's done this several times. Even in my master's program, I was always able to go online to retrieve that transcript. So just make sure that you know what options you have, whether you are in high school or whether you're in college. You want to just know where you can go and get that transcript and know how long it'll take in that process so that you're always prepared when you are submitting. Why do you need to submit a transcript? Your transcript allows us to verify your GPA. In the case that there's a minimum GPA requirement in terms of scholarship eligibility, but it also, like I was saying earlier, provides us with a glimpse at the difficulty of the courses that you've taken and, like I said, the type of student. If you're choosing these rigorous courses, it shows us, that, you're tenacious in that way. But if you have, a transcript and it's all A's and 1B, or it just gives us a good insight into your academic career. It says, that being said, you don't need to be in 5 AP classes to win a scholarship. While AP credits validate a commitment to learning, so do good grades in all types of classes. This is actually a really important point to make, my friends, because we have different types of students, we have different types of scholarships, and we're very intentional about that here at NSHSS because we recognize that some students may be way more into the fine arts than they are into academics in terms of like taking these AP courses, whether it's English or Latin or math, it's complicated math classes. We all have different gifts and talents. And so we are mindful of that when we are looking at your transcript. So it's important to note that you don't have to take those classes. It's more important for you to just kind of honor your gifts and talents and take the classes that interest you and do very well in those classes. So we've reviewed the portion about the transcript and what it includes. We're going to mark as complete. And it's the same thing, my friends. You're just going to upload. So I'm just going to grab a document here, attach that file. Let's just do this one again. Mark as complete. And we're going to go to the next step. So we're loading here. I'm super excited to get ready to answer your questions about, scholarships and the different pieces that we've gone over so far. It's one of my favorite things to do is to walk through scholarship and walk through our program in particular to show you guys all the different ways that you can get those scholarship dollars and make paying for college much easier. Okay, so here we are, verification of information permissions. This is a really important step in the process. Okay, so I'm just gonna read it. When you are agreeing here at the bottom, you are agreeing to this statement. Like I mentioned earlier, you always wanna read the things you're agreeing to. So this statement says, I certify that this information is correct. The information supplied is true and correct to the best of my ability. I understand that all information is subject to verification and that falsification of information will result in termination of any scholarships granted. Should I receive a scholarship or grant, I give the National Society of High School Scholars, NSHSS, permission to use my name, any photographs, digital media, and writings provided to the organization to be used in any of the print and digital publication materials, reports, press releases, and activities associated with its scholarship programs. I understand that any financial information is and shall remain confidential. So if you agree to the terms of the scholarship application, you want to just type in your full name and want to sign this thing here. So funny. So I'm just going to do a signature here. That is supposed to be a J, okay? Not that great with this thing here. We won't hold that against you. So do the best you can Let me clear this, my friends. I think I can do a little bit better here. So let's do here. That's supposed to be a J as well. I don't know, my friends. Give us the best you have here, okay? And then you're going to just select the date. I'm gonna pull up here for you. The 14th, we're gonna mark this step as complete. And we're going to scroll down. Let's go to the next step. So what's next? Now that you've gone through each step of the application process and you've built some impressive assets, it's time to submit your application for the chance to win your first scholarship. Your first scholarship is only the beginning. By completing this application, you are paving the way for future scholarship opportunities. We want you to make sure that you check out, the tips below here on finding more ways to fund your education. So just take a look at some of the different students' stories here or quotes here and the different, let's see here, links that we have to scholarship advice, improving the strategy, 7 tips to help you apply for scholarships. So we want you all to be successful, and we want to provide as many resources as we possibly can to aid in your scholarship application process. So it says, lastly, scholarships can also provide you with life-changing experiences. Many NSHSS partners offer program scholarships to interns, study, or volunteer abroad. 2019 intern group scholarship winner Adriana won a program scholarship to intern internationally in the field of her choice from the intern group. She gained firsthand experience in marketing with an agency in Madrid over the summer. And we want you to read about it because just like Adriana, it can be you. So you want to make sure that you put in your best foot forward in every aspect of the scholarship application, because you don't know what doors it can open for you. And we are certainly happy and excited to be able to partner with you and be able to provide those opportunities for you all as well. You may be our next scholarship winner presenting at Scholars Day. We have Scholars Day coming up, so I'm super excited to honor the scholarship winners who will be there. And you all, my friends, that could be you one day, okay? So once we've gone through here, you want to review, you want to make sure that everything looks the way you'd like it to look, and then we're going to mark as complete. So we'll scroll down a bit here. And then we have our award disclaimer. This is also really important as well. So I'm just going to read it and we'll go from there. So I acknowledge and understand that I must provide NSHSS with my response to the accept your award form of any award I may win, whether to accept, deny, or to request funds to be held until I am enrolled in college or university for scholarship programs within 60 days of being announced as a winner, or the award will be forfeited. No exceptions, my friends. After the 60 days have passed, no communication to NSHSS has been made on your part. You acknowledge and understand that NSHSS reserves the right to revoke your award, remove you from being listed as a winner, and to proceed with awarding the available spot to an individual in the wait list who meets the criteria. To ensure reliable communications, please keep your email address registered with the system active and up to date. And that's a few really key points here, my friends. So you want to just make sure that, you have, a level of expectation as you are applying for these scholarships. And with that expectation, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to your email. You take note of the days that the awards are going to be announced so that you, can see if you've won a scholarship award. And, as soon as you receive that notification, you want to go back into the dashboard and accept that award by completing the accept your award form. We do have lots of students who are, very good, very talented, very smart. And so we want to just be fair to everyone. So you just want to make sure that you do your part. If you've done all this work with your scholarship application, you want to make sure you do your part in terms of actually accepting your money so that we can send that money to your college or university. Okay, so once you've read this, you agree. You keep you agree to keep your email up to date with us as well. You want to just mark this box here. We're going to try this signature again. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm just going to be a little bit more bold here. It's not going that well, but that's okay. And we're gonna date it and mark as complete. So scroll down here to the bottom. I think the only other thing that we have left is for me to receive my letter of recommendation, and that will allow me to actually mark that piece as complete. So let's go back to the application here. Oh, I actually received it. So the cool thing is that, let's see here. I think I already have it because my boss is awesome. She sent my recommendation. So I can actually go in and mark this as complete. How cool is that? Cool beans. So we have all of our pieces of our scholarship application. So that's a good thing too. Keep in mind, ask people who will do it for you, when they get it, if they can, no pressure. So we're gonna submit our application. This is the application screen. You wanna make sure that you review everything before you submit. So it's not a bad idea to just go back through. Once you do that, and you do have the option to review, but once you do that, then you're going to submit. Woohoo! We have submitted our application, and you've submitted your first application. Once you go through this, your first scholarship application. So you can go back to your applications and continue with the process. You see now it shows that this one's submitted. Go back to our applications page and rinse and repeat for the other applications. So let's come off of the screen share and let's have a conversation. I'm ready and excited to answer your questions.
All righty, my friends. So we have gone through a NSHSS scholarship from beginning to end. And so now we're going to answer some questions. I know that you all have been asking questions the whole time. So let's see. I'm just going to go through a few of these. So one question says, what if you don't have a university or a college chosen? Where does the scholarship money get sent to? Which is a great question. So what happens, our scholarship programs, many of them are open to you if you are, a freshman or a sophomore, junior, senior. And if you have not enrolled in a college or university, we will actually hold that money for you. There's a place in the scholarship acceptance area. So once you actually submit, and if you win, then there's another step that you'll have where you'll come in during your senior year, or once you've decided what college you're going to attend, and you'll enter that information. And then we will send that money out to you by the beginning of your freshman year, or if it's a scholarship that you've received, while in college, we'll go ahead and send you that money. So we will hold it for you in our, and then we'll send it out once you've enrolled. So great question. Let's see. Okay, so one question says, in regards to recommendation, is it the recommender or the students who sends a recommendation to the scholarship committee? Great question. So you actually, if you remember, there's a part where I actually sent an email request to my boss, Karen, who functioned as my recommender. So when you're in the process, you'll send an email to the recommender, and they will actually respond. They'll receive a link, and they'll go into our dashboard and create an account, and they will actually upload that resume or that recommendation letter for you. If for some reason there's an issue, of course, you can reach out to us and we'll help you kind of figure out those technical issues if there are any, but that's typically how it works. You will request it through our system and they will respond through the system. Great question. So the next question about how many NSHSS members apply for any given scholarship offered by NSHSS, another great question. So this one is actually a bit layered. So most of our scholarships are actually open to both members and non-members. And so most of them, anyone can actually apply to those scholarships. We do have a few that are specifically for our members. And, I mentioned in the eligibility requirements, it's important for you to just review the eligibility requirements so that you can see if membership is required. So when you're checking for the eligibility, you want to just make sure that you actually qualify for the scholarships that you're interested in. And see, how many apply? That's actually the question. It really just depends on the topic. There's some folks who are really, really interested in STEAM. So we do have a lot of folks who apply for those. We have, some that are for fine arts, in art and theater and dance, and those actually just vary based on people's interests. So, we may have one that has 150, we may have one that has 600, so you want to just, put your best foot forward. There's no real way to kind of gauge how many folks you're going to be up against. But if you, follow those tips that we offered to you and just do your very, very best, we definitely notice the folks who put in a lot of effort into your scholarship application. So that's a great question. Let's see, I think I just answered that one. How many students typically apply for this scholarship? Yeah, so same answer. It just depends on the scholarships. We offer several. So it's really important to just take a look at that website and look at the eligibility for it. Let's see. Does a personal statement change based on the scholarship you're applying for? Yeah, so sometimes the application is really centered and focused on the topic. And other times, it may be a bit more general, but for the most part, all of our scholarship applications are going to ask a specific question regarding the topic. So, if it's about voting, we'll ask, why you think it's important and what you do. If it's about STEAM, it's like, what about your experiences, that show that you're interested in STEAM. So they are tailored so that we can really get a good glimpse into your specific experiences and your interests in each of the scholarship programs. So yes, they do change a bit, but you'll find that, you're still the same person. So there will be times where you can write a scholarship application or write a essay, and you'll be able to use pieces of it for other applications. So that is something we actually encourage because you're the same person. And so if it's relevant, we definitely say don't reinvent the wheel. Great question. Are you limited to one scholarship per school year or calendar year? So you are limited to one per calendar year. Great question. Great question. Let's see. How do we get an educator recommendation? May we use the same educator recommendation for different scholarship applications, or do we need different educator recommendations for each scholarship? So that's a really great question. So how you get it is, like I mentioned earlier, you want to actually have conversations with people who, counselors or teachers that you have really good experience with. And these folks really know how hard you work, and they can tell a story, and they can write recommendations and actually tell us how hard you work in school or in the community or, whatever area that you've chosen that person from. So you want to just first have that conversation. Then the second thing you want to do is, as you are applying in our program, in our system, you'll go through the application and there's a stage, if you remember from earlier, there's a stage where you will actually send a request to that person and then they will respond by submitting the recommendation to the application. Yes, so that's also a really good question too. You can use the same recommendation letter if you like, but it actually helps you a lot more if, like I was saying, that our applications are very specific. So if you have an educator who is, with you and it's science oriented or it's STEM oriented, and they've taught you that subject or those subjects, then you want them to write that recommendation. But if you're doing a dance scholarship as well, then you probably will want your dance teacher to write that recommendation, because you want them to be very specific about how hard you're working in that area. So great question, great question. Let's see. So another question is, should the educator recommendation come from a school teacher only? Not at all. Some of our best recommendations come from folks that you have engaged with in your community, in church settings. So it doesn't necessarily have to come from a person at your school, but keep in mind the context of the scholarship. So if it's something where, it's about your work in the school, then you probably want to have someone from the school write that recommendation. But if you, like I was saying with performing arts, if you are someone who does, do a lot of performing arts, but it's in the community, and you have people who really see you working in the community, then maybe those folks will be better in terms of writing your letter of recommendation. So just always ask yourself, like, who is going to be able to really tell my story in regards to this particular scholarship application? Like, who's going to just say amazing things about me because I'm already doing these amazing things? So I would say that's the best way to figure out who would be a good recommender. So a few more questions, my friends. Let's see. Let's see. I think a really good question. How do I get funds for college? Of course, you're here now. This is how you get funds for college. You apply for scholarships and grants. Just so you know, scholarships are, scholarships and grants are ways that you don't necessarily have to pay that money back. So those are, try to get as many scholarships and grants as you possibly can when you're applying or when you're paying for college. What is an academic resume? That's a great question. So your academic resume really focuses on a lot of the work that you've done in a school setting, as well, as well as like your extra curricular or co-curricular activities. Sometimes folks still include their work, which tells us as a student that you can balance your time very well. So it's, for you all, you just want to write a resume that highlights, the highlights of your life. So if you're really good at school, you want to highlight your GPA and some of the harder classes that you've taken. Or if you're telling a story about, the arts and you've taken a lot of classes in terms of the arts, you may want to mention a lot of those classes. So take a look at our website. We have some tips and tricks. And you'll be able to see some of those examples, as well as if you go into the scholarship that we did tonight, there is an example of a resume there. And so you can, create yours and make it look like that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, okay? Great questions, everyone. Let's see. Are the scholarships just for high school seniors that are already admitted to colleges? Absolutely not. Our scholarships, like I was saying earlier, in terms of eligibility, we have scholarships for folks that are in high school and in college. So you want to just pay attention to those eligibility requirements. Let's see. Are we allowed to get any other scholarships through the NSHSS if we successfully get this one? Yeah, so the only ways that you're limited, you're only allowed to win one per year. But absolutely, you are allowed to have to win more than one scholarship throughout your years of high school and college. So keep applying, apply. Okay, so great question. Is there any specific age or grade you would recommend to start searching for college scholarships? As soon as possible, We're not the only organization that provides scholarships for folks who are not juniors or seniors. So as soon as you can begin that process, I think the better. You want to just go ahead and start applying and finding those opportunities so that, if it is, you find a lot of scholarships that are for juniors and seniors, you can actually start, crafting, your resume, start crafting those recommendation letters. so that by the time, you are preparing to actually apply, you have a lot of your pieces already together. It's one of the reasons why we do the Your First Scholarship that we, did tonight, because it prepares you and it gives you those tips and tricks as you are actually applying for the scholarship to then prepare you for other scholarship opportunities. So yes, you want to apply, you want to start that process as early as you possibly can. And also, it's not too late, if it's your senior year, it's not too late at all. You just want to go ahead and begin searching for those scholarship opportunities through us and through other organizations as well. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Let's see. So when do we need to apply for scholarships? When is deadline? So we have deadlines throughout the year, and I think that's the case for most other organizations. So as you are looking through scholarships and you're finding the ones you're interested in, it's very important very early on to see when those scholarships are actually due. Some folks actually do like a spreadsheet, which is very, very helpful if you're applying for multiple scholarships. So when you're looking at those scholarships, make sure that's one of the first things you take note of in the application where you see where it's due, because we have different deadlines for our scholarships. And like I said, that's the case for most other programs as well. So let's see, one more question. Let's see, let's find a question I think I haven't answered just yet here. So this is actually a good question. I think it's important too. The question is, is there a limit for words when you're writing your personal statement? So yes, and it varies depending on the scholarship application. So like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to eligibility, you want to actually just take a look at the prompt, because that's actually really important. If it says no more than 500 words or no more than 800 words or a minimum of 500 words, you want to make sure that you're paying close attention, because scholarship providers are paying attention to that. And that's also something really important when you're going into college settings. Professors are sticklers about you paying attention to the word limit or the word count. So that's something you want to pay attention to. It's one of the very first things you do. And I would even say, as you are starting to craft your scholarships, that you have different versions of your personal statements. You have a shorter version, a longer version, and you're able to kind of piece those things together based on the scholarship application. So I think we are at time. It is 8 o'clock. And my friends, you are, more than welcome to submit, your questions. You can email us, go to our website, scholarships@nshss.org, and you can email us, and our scholarships team will answer any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer tonight. Our webinar would actually be loaded onto our website. So you can go back and take a look at some of the tips and the tricks, as well as some of the other opportunities and some of the other resources that I've mentioned tonight. So thank you all so much for joining. I am so excited to receive your scholarship applications as well as your questions. You all have a fantastic night, and we'll see you next time.